On-site coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by Borealis Mining.
Hello, welcome back. We're at the Precious Metals Summit and our first guest is Kelly Malcolm, CEO of Borealis Mining. Kelly, good to be with you.
Best for first, I guess they say, Peter.
That is why we picked you first.
Great.
Look, I think a lot of people are familiar with the story. Obviously, you purchased the Borealis Mine a few years ago. You're now in a pretty strong position where you should be entering production pretty soon. What can you tell us about when we're expecting first gold pour?
Great, yeah. So, we picked up Borealis, went public only about a year ago now. We are currently crushing a stockpile of mineralized oxide ore. We're treating it with cyanide. We've got about 110,000 tons under cyanide at the moment, collecting gold in our fully permitted functional ADR plant. And gold, first gold pour is imminent here, Peter. We're really excited. We have poured gold in the past, but that was what's called residual leaching. So basically washing the old leach pads. This is our own internal genuine production. So really excited to get some gold poured and get it off to the refiner for sale.
Good. Obviously, I've been following this story since sort of you were first looking to go public with it, and I've enjoyed every step of the journey so far. I think the interesting thing for me was the potential scale or the future ambitions of the company. Obviously, even a while ago, you've always said this within a relatively short period of time for mining, say around 5 years, you could be reaching up to the 100,000, if not more, production profile. Mm-hmm. How is that vision looking at the moment, and I guess what are you doing at the moment to get there?
Sure. So the easy one to start that process is resumption of mining at Borealis. We've got permitted pits. We've got everything ready for operations. We're doing something called a minor modification to one of our permits right now, just to allow us some operational flexibility, increase the pits now the gold's moving. So that'll happen, and again, very softly, but we will announce guidance at some point shortly here, but ideally this year we hope to resume mining on a proper basis. Next up on the list in our growth trajectory is we've got the Sandman project. So that was acquired in March of this past year. And as gold keeps moving, that thing looks better and better by the day. We've just actually recently executed a contract to update the PEA with current, or at least more modern gold prices. And I'm anticipating some pretty dang stellar economics. The last one that was done was in 2023 at $1,800 gold. And that alone was spectacular. It was an NPV 10x on what we paid for it, IRR around 100%. When you look at that actual economic study, they did put a sensitivity study to the price of gold, and it's ludicrously sensitive to the price of gold. So really looking forward to getting that study updated, completed, and out to market. I think it's going to be pretty dang special. And then to advance the asset, we've actually started the process of advancing that towards mining. So starting pre-feasibility work, starting advanced environmental studies. The property has been completely covered by archaeological, biological, and some chemical studies in the past by Newmont, but we've got to do a little bit more to upgrade that to the mining permit level, but that'll be the next on the list. And then I think actually our last year at Beaver Creek, we talked about the focus that we have, which is M&A and growth. Yep. And our team, just as a quick rehash, take a look at our website. We've got some rock stars that have built some real monster companies in the past, and a lot of that was done through smart acquisitions, of course, exploration and success, but we are definitely in the market for additional assets and think there's still some wonderful opportunities out there, even as gold has started rising, Peter.
Nice. Okay, I would want to take a look at the bigger picture of where the production's going to be coming from, and obviously you were talking about most obviously the Borealis Mine. It's right next to the ADR facility. Yep. You've got everything you need to go into production right now, so it's just a case of how much you can scale up that mine, I guess. And so what does that forecast look like? I know you're talking about doing guidances at some point, but can we get a bit of a glimpse as to what sort of production capacity we could be potentially seeing out of Borealis, and then what you envision for Sandman down the line?
Sure. So under regulations, I can't give you numbers of ounces, but what I can do is look to the past. So this thing did 600,000 ounces in the 80s through the exploitation of 6 or 7 small pits. The first stuff that's permitted is largely the balance of those pits. So you're a little bit constrained. So you're not going to be doing 100,000 ounces out of this setup that's there. But you can get some meaningful gold production out of Borealis. We've also got 2 additional large target areas that haven't been exploited that could potentially scale that up quite significantly. And of course, wasn't a huge focus for us for the past little while because exploration wasn't paying dividends really. You weren't getting much bang for your buck. Times have changed and the game's back on, it seems. Well, hopefully it continues, but we are going to get pretty aggressive. We've got some great targets. We've had geologists out mapping, sampling. We've had some good successes in the field over the past few months and have generated some wicked targets. So ideally we can look into some new oxide mineralization to potentially exploit in the future. But in terms of scaling up, we've got our ADR facility. I think we talked about this again at Beaver Creek
we did last year,
is the capacity of our plant. So right now we're probably looking at a capacity about 60,000 ounces produced out of that ADR facility. We have costed and done the work to see what it would look like if we did entail or did employ a hub and spoke model of how we would get to a much larger number. So to get to better than 120,000 ounces, it actually isn't all that much work. We'd need to upgrade our EW cell, increase our furnace. So right now we've got a small propane powered furnace. We'd upgrade to a larger electric furnace, and really those are the 2 main steps. Upgrade our carbon columns, upgrade our stripping circuit, but we're not constrained operationally. If we wanted to look at bringing in Sandman, loaded carbon from that asset to Borealis, look at other assets, look at even toll treating material, we definitely have the capacity and the team and the staff and everything under our wing right now.
Okay, so in terms of upgrading the plant, doubling or even further, sounds like pretty low capex requirements in the grand scheme of things.
Very much so. Less than, let's say to get above 150, they're looking at less than $2 million. Is
that it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so it really is just a case now of having more material and being able to mine. And I guess at Sandman, for example, you're going to need to build a heap leach pad. We were talking about this last year. You then truck the loaded carbon, which is just, in terms of the, I mean, maybe you can talk about that again, just
for sure.
The amount of gold in a ton of loaded carbon, for example, is just phenomenal.
It's pretty nuts. So whenever I talk about this treating of mineralized material from another site, everyone's like, well, it's low grade heap leach in Nevada. Surely you can't truck it without losing all the value of the ore. What we would look to do is, and this is in the PEA, any of your readers can look it up, but you would build at Sandman, you'd mine your pits, you'd stack it on a heap leach pad, you'd build a set of ponds to allow solution to run back and forth to and from the pad, and then you'd have a set of carbon columns, which are essentially a Brita filter that sequester gold out of that solution. I can tell you firsthand, like we're getting some assays back from the material that's in our carbon columns at the moment at Borealis from our heap leaching. We're seeing assays well in excess of 100 ounces per ton. So when you look at the cost of shipping that material, it's peanuts. You could ship it for 15 hours on a truck, and it would take away essentially nil from the value of that material. So we're not really constrained by distance, so we could even look at some assets a bit further afield. But yeah, we're open for business and looking at maximizing the value of that plant.
And the original PEA on Sandman, that was envisioning what, around 30,000 ounces per annum?
That was there's a production schedule in there. It's about 35 to 40,000 ounces per year. Really, really cheap pre-production capex. The deposits are essentially mounds that stick out of the ground. Very low stripping to get going, and then you would take revenues from your initial stripping exercises and initial heap leaching, and then develop the pits below the surface, below the water table, etc.
Okay, all right. So potentially 40 odd, maybe even more thousand ounces per year coming out of Sandman. In terms of Borealis, how much more exploration work needs to be done before you can get an idea of what the throughput per annum could be just from the deposits you have already?
Well, we certainly know internally what the numbers are going to look like, but I can't divulge that, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
we're aiming to scale this thing up quite
Yeah.
rapidly.
Okay, all right.
That's what all I can give you, Peter. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Unfortunately.
I'm probing. Okay, so in terms of the M&A sort of criteria at the moment, you were talking, you can obviously go further afield. How much tougher is it now to do M&A than it was even a couple of years ago, now that we're at sort of $3,600 gold?
There's a lot more shoppers in the grocery store. Yeah, the aisles are definitely more full. There are still plenty of opportunities out there. I do genuinely spend a lot of time on this. We work with bankers, we work with different consultants looking at different assets. Like when you look at Sandman relative to what I think the future value will be, or in contrast to what the purchase price was, I think there's still opportunities like that out there. Even though the market started moving, you're starting to see this basically double from the past few months in most names that have any half-decent projects. Right now, Borealis stock is under a bit of pressure owing to some warrants that are going to be expiring on Saturday, but I do anticipate that we hope, again, fingers crossed and very forward-looking, that we experience a nice re-rate here, particularly once we start getting the gold production coming to market.
Past Saturday.
And I think relative price goes up here, but price goes up here, and I don't think you're paying much different than you were aside from the actual dollar amount when you're looking at transactions, right?
Yeah, because you bought Sandman for what, $7 million US dollars?
8.9 million Canadian, 7 million US.
Okay. Yeah. And you look at the MPV, I mean, we were looking at this, they did sensitivities back in the old PA that they did at $3,000 based on the economics they were doing there. I think it was almost approaching $500 million in MPV.
Yeah, 420 or so million.
Yeah. So at today's prices, I mean, yeah, you've got a pretty good deal there. So you still think there's still more deals like that? And is that just a case of because
I know there are. You
know there are. Okay.
There are plenty of them out there. There still are a few people looking for Sandman size projects. They don't fit. It's still, even though the numbers are ludicrous when you look at it.
Yeah.
On an economic ratio, the market still wants.
But they're ludicrous for you because you have the ADR facility, you have the capacity to.
But even if you built an ADR facility, like that thing still is a cash cow in my eyes. The NPV, it's going to cost you another let's say we look at building an ADR, you're 50, 60 million or so for all the infrastructure required. Still under 100 million capex for that thing. And you have an NPV of better than 400 million. Like,
yeah, true.
There's lots of value in that scenario. But they just don't add the ounces to the larger producers. That like that's the question at the beginning of every interview and every meeting is how many ounces can you do this year instead of how much free cash flow can you generate? And that's always been a thesis that we've been looking at is we're targeting cash, not ounces.
Yeah.
So looking for high value, low cost, high IRR projects is our main criteria at the moment.
You're going to have production coming out of Borealis, like you said, imminently, right? Mm-hmm. How much of this could be potential cash flow versus your traditional debt and equity raisings to try and actually build up this profile of?
I'm hoping a lot. Yeah, I'm hoping a lot. We get offered money. Like now that the market started moving, we've definitely been offered some equity. We've been offered debt quite regularly, actually. We'll be creative. It's not a bad thing to have a treasury at the same time, but we'll definitely look to fund it internally as much as possible while still maintaining a strong cash position, or a strong gold position. We'll see what our inventory looks like, but there's certainly a benefit to holding on to some cash rather than deploying it all. So we'll be creative, and ideally we'll be in a strong cash position so we can be creative.
Okay, and what are the next steps over that, say, between now and the end of the year? What are you working on? You were talking about sort of ramping up the exploration again now, but is there anything else going on? Lots.
We're busy as all heck. So if we're looking at just kind of a news cycle from now till end of year, gold pours, of course, will be imminent. Announcement of this permit to increase the size of the pits, mobilization of contractors to start the actual mining process. Again, that's very forward-looking. Some exploration work, some Sandman pre-development work. We've got a lot of meaty things on the go and genuinely meaningful value added thing. So we're busy, we're excited, and we're in the market now where you've got to move quickly or you get left behind. So
Yeah, okay. And like say we were looking to chatting again, I'm sure we will be this time next year. Where do you want to be in September of 26?
I want to be well underway in our mine permitting of Sandman. By then we might have a PFS completed. It depends on timing of the engineers. That's not always in our hands. And I'd like to be in full production at Borealis. I'd ideally like to have an M&A deal inked, and we'd like to be drilling pretty aggressively. So we've got big ambitions for this year. Like the last year, we listed, like I said, in August. Did a bunch of drilling. We started this crushing program. We did a corporate acquisition of Gold Bull. We did an equity raise back in March. We're a busy go-getting team, and we'd like to continue that trajectory going forward.
Good, Kelly. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.